right now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the world-famous, universally celebrated, award-winning Rage Select podcast. We haven't.
We won awards?
I gave us an award last week
That's
for
all that matters.
Jeff's favorite podcast. Is the actually no.
We only got like fourth place on Jeff's favorite
That's
podcast.
right. Yeah, what can I say, man? You know, I tried real hard, but yes, welcome everybody. I am Jeff, of course.
I'm
and
Grant.
Grant is back again.
Hello.
And yeah, we got the
I
podcast.
can't do that accent after Nick was here last week.
Oh yeah, it's just going to sound silly at this point,
Yeah,
right?
I don't sound British.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. Nick and I we discussed Halloween. I'm kind of interested to get your take on how was your Halloween, Grant? How was your Halloween?
You and I spent Halloween together.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I mean, before that, I took my daughter. She's only 1.5.
right.
But I took her kind of around the neighborhood to like 3 houses, really.
You took your 1-year-old daughter trick-or-treating?
Well, I had her dressed up. I took her to a couple friends' houses that were doing trick-or-treat already. They were giving out candy so that she could kind of experience it. And then I took her to the kids' museum for a bit so she can run around and play on the toys.
So you're starting with the early indoctrination of the Halloween, the cult of Halloween.
Yes.
You're trying to get that shit instilled
I dressed
early.
up as Galactus,
Said
and so I dressed her up as Planet Earth.
You were Dad Lactus,
I was
right?
Dad Lactus, yes. Although that sounds like Dad lactating or something to me. So
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know about Dad Lactus.
You put some just water stains on your shirt right over your nipples.
just leaking. Don't look at there. It's a very beautiful thing.
I was actually amazed because it seemed like the very moment that Halloween was over, people started talking to me about what was going to happen for Thanksgiving this year.
Oh, yeah?
And I'm so glad, Grant, that you're doing your thing not on the day of Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've got like Thanksgiving coming at me from all directions now.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know. I'm trying to figure out if there's some like Machiavellian way to get everybody to put all the different things that people want to do together into one thing. But you know me, I'm not a good facilitator. I don't schedule real well or get people in places when they're supposed to be or anything like that.
You do this all the time, actually. Every single week is coordinating.
Yeah. I also have to just take this moment, as always, as every year, we have to take a moment to say, can we at least wait until after Thanksgiving to start with the fucking Christmas music, Grant?
There's no good Thanksgiving music out there, is there?
I hate the Christmas music so much. I hate it so much.
I haven't even heard a single Christmas song yet.
I was out today at the Domain, the place by my house with the craziness.
Well, there's the problem. Don't go to the Domain.
Well, it's the closest place to my house that has video games that I can purchase.
Oh, yeah?
And, yeah, they had the Christmas music already busted out. And
you know, if you want to fix this, make
Yeah.
some Thanksgiving music.
no, that's...
Make an album about eating turkey.
Why does it have to be any music? Why can't it just be like rock and roll on the radio?
You can't just have just always playing, just some smooth listening.
What? I don't understand.
I don't know. That's why I imagine plays the rest of the year when it's not Christmas music.
Oh, like shopping
It's like
centers and
either
stuff.
elevator music
Right.
or Christmas music.
I don't recognize elevator music. Elevator music is not like sharpened candy cane knives going directly into my ears. It makes me want to claw my own face off in terror and horror.
Just don't. I mean, I don't care too much about Christmas music. I'm like, all right, cool, a little festive.
I don't understand.
You must have had traumatizing Christmases.
It's just I've heard every one of those songs, and I wish that somebody. I know that people do make like.
There's modern Christmas songs.
There's like a Weezer Christmas album or something.
Yeah.
Or was there? There was like a.
Yeah, Weezer did a Christmas thing.
I think there was like a Squirrel Nut Zipper. I mean, there's been a bunch of bands, like a bunch of bands that have made either brand new Christmas songs, like or people that have done kind of like punk rock or death metal renditions of Christmas songs. Why can't we hear those?
I agree. We're still stuck on listening to fucking Bing Crosby.
And I don't have
it's like update that shit.
I don't necessarily have anything against Bing Crosby as a human being, but geez, I mean,
Christmas is stuck in the time capsule when it comes to the music.
Yeah, and also another public service announcement now that Halloween has passed us is that I'm beginning to see the first rumblings of Black Friday approaching with all of its horrific tendrils.
How many people will die this year?
I don't know. Do people actually die?
Yeah.
How many though?
There's usually about like 5 or something.
It's not That's not too bad,
It's
right?
usually a good trampling. Someone kind of has a heart attack.
Yeah.
Maybe someone's too cold waiting outside for something.
I don't understand.
Usually it's tramplings and fights. It's getting like more and more vicious each year.
Yeah.
This should be a Deadpool we all make for it.
Are you saying, Grant, I think I just, is this when they inevitably make the prequel to The Purge, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be where it started. The Purge started with Black Friday, and then they said, like, well, we're just going to take the violence and we're going to leave the shopping on Black Friday, and then we're going to make
like
the actual
the
Purge.
people that shop at Black Friday would take out the people from the Purge. The Purge people would run in fear of the Black Friday people.
The rapey murder mobs are just standing in front of Walmart, and they're just
like, oh, God.
Oh, God. Take your people masks off.
Here, take the Furby. Take the goddamn Furby.
Leave Ethan Hawke alone. Have you seen these people? I still don't understand why they do that. Why they just fling the doors open and go, all right, whatever, right? Like, you could just let people go in.
Certain places are really good about throttling it properly. You make a line,
Right.
you hand out tickets, and then they're like, hey, you know what? You come back at this time, and we're going to go in order, and whoever's there, you bring up your ticket.
Right.
And as long as you're there, it'll be nice and orderly, and you can buy your shit.
Fucking Black Friday, man. I haven't purchased a thing for Black Friday in 5-10 years or something like
either.
that.
I got my Wii
Yeah.
on Black Friday.
I thought Well, you said that before you finished the noun. I thought you said I got some weed on Black Friday.
I bought some weed?
I got some Black Friday. Like, you don't know the savings you can get on
They sell
Black
it so
Friday.
much cheaper.
Oh, my God. You just got to, it's a doorbuster sale, though. You got to be the first into, I don't know, CVS in California or
I got
Colorado.
50% off of my tobacco water pipe, in quotes.
Right. Well, Grant, has anything been going on with you for the last? I'm going to talk to you in a couple of weeks. Is any big stuff worth mentioning? Have you done anything?
I've kind of come to the conclusion that I'm done with sleep. I don't think I'm ever going to get sleep ever again properly.
Okay, yeah.
It's just kids.
And then
You have kids,
is it
and
just?
then it's just done. I mean, I'd say public service announcement to you listeners. Don't have kids. But I don't have to worry about that. These people, the people that listen to our show, are the type of people that aren't going to have kids anyway.
I think some of them do have
bunch
children.
of reprobates. They don't. They know.
It was like there's this weird commercial that was running on Hulu that was for the NyQuil, just go to sleep NyQuil.
Go to sleep, oh man.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
kidding.
It's called ZQuil.
ZQuil?
Yeah, it sounds like something you made up, right?
I have seen that. Yeah,
it's like the non-habit forming sleep aid. So like they took all of the antihistamines and everything out and just left the part that knocks you on your ass. And I can't imagine, is there anybody out there who's not using this for illegitimate drug-related purposes? Like, because chugging a bottle of ZQuil and then forcing yourself to stay awake until you see zebras and shit coming out of the wall.
Chug the ZQuil and then chug some Red Bull or some Monster or whatever.
Right.
Just get all hyped up.
I just
Have a fight.
The commercial for it is so pathetic. It's like these parents and their kids are going to the grandparents and they're like, for the whole weekend. And so the parents high five. It looks like 3:00 in the afternoon. They show the bottle of ZQuil. And
Are you fucking kidding?
No, this is exactly what it is. They high five as soon as the kids are out of the way. They show a bottle of ZQuil and they show them both just pass the fuck out. And I'm like,
Oh man, that's awesome.
is this some kind of anti-child
Legal?
advertisement?
So
ZQuil for when you just can't stand that shit anymore. Like
I know where I'm going after this recording.
to the Walgreens.
Going to the Walgreens. I gotta grab some. It's just brilliant.
How
How about you, man? What's been new with you?
Well, I haven't been sleeping either. I mean, so it's for the
Sleeps for the week.
yeah.
sleep when
Let's
you're
see.
dead.
Let's see. Last weekend, I finally did Constantine. Finally got my Constantine on.
yeah? What are you thinking?
I don't know if I entirely am with it just yet.
I haven't seen all of it. I heard it's kind of.
I think I like. Well, okay. So the thing is that I actually recommended it to one of my friends because he didn't know jack shit about Constantine.
Yeah.
I think I want my Constantine, because I'm a fan of the comics, right?
Sure.
To be a little bit darker and a little bit dirtier. Yeah, a little bit edgier. It's a little like, as I like that in The Flash, that The Flash is just a very kind of poppy, smoothed out show, right?
Yeah.
Where nobody's
Flash is great and it's bright and cheery as it should be.
right. I kind of want the dudes what made Breaking Bad to make or American Horror Story maybe would be a good
take
thing.
a page
or like,
from Hannibal. Hannibal's on the same exact channel. It's dark. It's vicious. It's gory, and unrelenting, and I think that same type of world, put Constantine in there and have him be a smarmy asshole in this that's put in this world.
I don't know if I entirely like the guy that's playing Constantine either. Is he seems
I kind of like him, actually.
This is really weird, right? But it seems like his hair is bleached blonde because he's got
some frosted tips,
dark eyebrows, and I'm just like,
he's me in the late 90s.
Oh yeah, I see your Facebook profile.
You saw that, man.
Grant.
Oh Jesus, look like Timberlake circa NSYNC.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to keep watching it because it's definitely see, I guess it's interesting that 5, maybe 10 years ago, I would have cut off my left arm to have Constantine, but now it's like there's so much good shit on TV that I could just go, I don't know if it's exactly what I want.
The whole thing's a little, it's all sugar-coated. He's a little milquetoast, and it's like, come on.
It's kind of like a really bright version of X-Files. Like, it doesn't have the kind of...
Yeah.
It needs to be dirtier and more noirish and gross and that kind of stuff. And it's just very clean show.
Have you seen Hannibal?
I have not. I haven't yet.
Man, it is gorgeous. It's the guy who did Pushing Daisies. He did Dead Like Me.
No.
Wonder Falls. Have you ever seen it? Brian Fuller.
Nope.
Brian Fuller is just a visionary. And him doing TV, it's just beautiful. I love his work, and when he's doing something dark and fucked up and twisted, and he makes it so gorgeous.
Yeah,
it's kind of like The Cell or like Tarsum type movies.
Yeah. I got you.
That guy who does Amelie, that kind of style, but mixed with horror.
The thing that's, I think one of the things though that's really keeping me on Constantine is that every time it starts, it's like that Rotten S. O'Bannon or whatever. The guy who did a lot of Farscape is like writer or producer or something like that on the show.
Yeah.
And like Farscape's my jam.
Yeah.
I love me some Farscape. So
you're one of those people. Okay.
I even go back now and watch it and I'm like, it's gotten cheesier as I've gotten older, but it's still not that bad. Other than that, I mean, around here it's just been drinking and playing video games. I'm actually caught all the way up.
Yeah, you've been jamming away at these things, and you've been saying, "Oh man, you had a backlog of them all completed already."
Yeah, I've got reviews that need to happen. I swear to God, people, I'm really trying. I'm afraid. Since Jason left, I'm afraid I've never done a review without him. I've done like one or two, right?
Yeah.
But
where's him going? Yeah.
That's right.
Most
of the
reviews,
just take
little audio clips of him doing that, and you just talk and then just plug those in.
The Jason Murphy soundboard.
It's a good point. Yeah, you should totally have one of those.
I've got so much raw audio of that dude. I could probably make him say whatever I wanted to.
Jeff, you're being a bitch right now.
That's right.
Cue that button right there.
Jeff, you are a sexual Tyrannosaurus.
Oh, thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Jason. You're so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're getting close to the end of it. We're getting pretty close. I think the first week in December is the last week this year when there's anything of note coming out, and then we're just going to go back and look at some of the stuff that we've skipped over. But actually, that Halloween week where we did double videos, the 2 games that we covered were ones that I really would have put off until December, but so we don't have as much as I originally thought. But yeah, it's a lot of really, really, really good stuff right now.
It's fun. The past few weeks, we've been playing some good games. I'm like, like I said, good riddance, Jason. Just kidding.
No.
End on that note.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're all out. It's the end of the podcast.
I think that's I think that's where we end this. You have to excuse us this week, folks. We're doing this really late, a lot later than we normally do, but
we are.
Yeah. I mean, before we move on to the news, anything else? Do you see anything?
I have one more thing since you were mentioning TV.
Yeah.
I've been watching The Walking Dead, and it's gotten good again.
I think I read something about that just recently.
It has picked up in this new season, the 5th season. It's like it's one of those things where you can't be like, "Hey, you guys should check it out if you've never watched it before."
Right.
Jump into the 5th season. That's bullshit. But for anyone who has been watching, I'm sure everyone else has kind of noticed they kind of ran through all these different showrunners. They ended up on this guy Scott Gimple.
Okay.
And this guy, he probably had to kind of find his way, and deal with like what was left over from this guy Greg Mazzara before him at the end, like midway through last season.
Yeah.
And so that's when you kind of see things starting to improve.
Uh-huh.
And this time, like at the beginning of this season, they're just kind of taking off. They're not dawdling on the plot. They are showing characterization that they haven't done before. They're actually balancing a lot of like interesting plot points, and it's really fascinating to watch, and I'm really back into it.
I just liked it when you started with that, of the idea of being like, you've got to check out The Walking Dead. It takes about 4 seasons to really hit its stride. You're going to need to watch.
It's been such a love-hate relationship with me with that show because I love the comic, and I don't like how they executed on there, and I think they've done terrible characterization. But luckily, they've killed off all the shitty people, kept the good ones, and now they kind of know what to do with them.
That's wow. I mean, I'm at the point with Walking Dead. It's a lot of people. Every time it comes up, eventually somebody is just like, "Oh, you got to watch Walking Dead." And I watched the first episode.
I would say you don't have to, but if you've been on the ride already, I want to be like, "Hey, right?"
I watched the first episode, and it didn't do a hell of a lot for me.
Oh, really?
And
I thought the first episode was great, just because it was Darabont getting to do a cinematic thing.
Well, the other thing is that and I've talked about this a few times before. See, right now I'm in a very unique position where people on my Facebook feed who are really cavalier with Walking Dead spoilers, it doesn't affect me. Because be like, oh my God, Jimmy got run over by a tractor this episode. And I can just be like, well, I don't know who Jimmy is, and I don't know where the tractor is, so I can just wait, and I'll forget about it in a couple of weeks.
To me, it almost doesn't matter, because every single person just about is expendable on that show.
Okay.
People die all the fucking time. It's like, oh, another one died? Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
Don't get attached.
Well, that sounds great.
Yeah, that's about it.
Someday I'll go back and watch it. I don't think I'm ever going to go back and watch Mad Men, though. I don't think I ever will.
Mad Men, you should.
I hate advertising and the stuff they're talking about on that show. I have this moral problem with making a hero out of an advertising executive because I'm on Bill Hicks' side.
Dude, then you should watch it. None of these people are heroes.
Scumbags.
And the whole thing is scummy.
Do they all die at the end of the first season?
They all are just destroying their lives.
They're
all schmucky. They're all painted in a bad light. It's a struggle with their identity and their shittiness.
Yeah, I don't know. I hate.
It's a great show, but
so
if you
hate.
don't want to, don't worry. There's plenty of other great shows out there.
Yeah. Plus, it's nice. It's nice not watching a lot of these shows. And if you can not get started on them, you just wait till they're done and then just go on Netflix 1 month, whatever, and just like barrel through the entirety of the whole seasons.
That's kind of a nice way to do it.
But enough of that. Let's get to the news. We've got actually quite a bit of interesting news this week because last week was BlizzCon.
Oh.
Yep. So we had a bunch of Blizzard news, and I think that there's a lot of it, like some of the Warcraft stuff and some of the some of the Hearthstone stuff that we're not going to talk about. But there was something that was really interesting that I think the day after we did our podcast last week was when they announced it.
Yeah.
And that is Overwatch. So if you have been underneath 16 tons of boulder rock and don't know what the fuck we're talking about.
If you're not into video games at all.
Pause this. If you're not into video games at all, pause this.
Even then, yeah.
And go at least watch the Overwatch cinematic trailer because this thing, I forget from time to time.
Gorgeous.
Blizzard is like one of the best when it comes to cinematics.
I didn't know they were that good at this.
Well, have you ever seen like the opening cinematics to like StarCraft or Diablo or some of those things where it's like these really
I remember Diablo, but being like a bunch of sketches, and it was like, oh, that's pretty sketches.
Oh, but then it busts into the actual people, the actual renders of the people in the game. But this is much more like this is
Pixar. Come on.
Very Pixar. Yeah,
very Pixar.
Absolutely Pixar. I got to tell you though, if this was in theaters instead of Big Hero 6, I would go watch this 3 or 4 times, and I don't really care that much about Big Hero 6. So
it's like everything about this, it's so expansive. It's such a great, quick world-building video. I mean, how long is this thing? Like 11 minutes?
It's 6 minutes.
6 minutes.
And there's not really a wasted moment in it where they're not
established everything so quick. But unfortunately, or fortunately or unfortunately, I can't tell. This is
the cinematic trailer is basically just setting up the universe. The actual game itself is actually a first-person shooter. But this is basically the short of it is that you've got this future world where there was this group called the Overwatch that was put together to
fight evil. They're basically a bunch of superheroes,
right?
And like Justice League Unlimited.
And then they won, and now it's like years later, and the evil is rising yet again, and so it's weird because
they're no longer recognized as like. They're like kind of mercenaries, it seems.
Yeah. I'm sorry, we've got the trailer on, and I have to turn away from it. It's fucking mesmerizing.
You are lost in it.
But the actual game itself, there's like a 6-minute gameplay trailer as well. Is a first-person shooter, but it looks a lot like Team Fortress 2, and I think a lot of that comes from the art style being translated into a first-person shooter.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that in the trailer for the first-person shooter, they show. Like 12 or 13 different characters that
all a good slew of them
play very differently. That they have bigger characters that are more. They have characters that are like some that turn into turrets, some that build turrets, some that fly, some that
are
don't
robots,
fly.
some are animals, some are hunters, some
are big heavy
giant
dudes, shields,
machines, and
monkeys with glasses on, like.
And a beast,
a bunch of really, really interesting environments as well, as we were watching the trailer.
Yeah.
Like kind of a Japanese-style one, and there's like a Neo-Egypt and a London. And
have you ever read the comic Umbrella Academy?
No.
So it's by this guy, Gerard Way, who you might also be familiar with as the lead singer of My Chemical Romance.
Really?
Yeah, but he wrote this comic called Umbrella Academy, and it's this futuristic superhero family, and something about it is so similar to this, and I think it's actually a really fun comic. I really dig it. But I look at that and I look at this, I'm like, oh man, this is just beautiful. It looks really fun.
Yeah, I mean the cinematic trailer, I think, even if this is just a class-based multiplayer game, I actually think it's funny because the other thing to remember, of course, is that this is the first new IP that Blizzard has done since Diablo. I mean, World of Warcraft, like not the first new game, right? But like World of Warcraft spawned from original Warcraft. So you had Warcraft, StarCraft, Diablo, and then they had Titan in development, but they dropped that. That was going to be their multiplayer online shooter.
Oh, I never heard of this.
It's going to be the successor, the MMO successor to. They canceled it a couple months ago finally, and they said they just couldn't make it fun. But
is this part of that? Did it get translated into this?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Maybe there might be some assets or something in there, but this doesn't sound like what I've had a few people explain to me what Titan was going to be, and this doesn't sound like what Titan was. So as far as individual game worlds go, this is the first new Blizzard game world. I'm trying to. Come on, man. There's got to be another one that I'm here. I'm just going to pull them up on Wikipedia.
So this is going to be an online first-person shooter. Multiplayer, whatever.
Yes. The interesting thing about it is that it seems like it's going to be. It seems like rather than
excluding Hearthstone as well, I guess.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong about this. I haven't dug real super deep into it, but it seems like rather than a class-based shooter, it's going to be a character-based shooter. So it kind of seems almost more like they're trying to take some of the lessons from like a game like Dota and maybe translate that into a first-person shooter where you have specific characters that are able to be strong against some characters and weak against other characters.
So you think there's going to be leveling up kind of things as well? And it's hard to tell from the trailer.
That one surprised me. Let's see. Let's see if I can get a little bit more information here. 6 players, 6-on-6, squad-based combat. It says similar to this is directly off the Wikipedia page, folks.
Okay.
So, similar to a MOBA, players choose one of several hero characters, each with their own unique abilities and role classes. This includes offense-oriented characters with high speed and attack but low defense, defensive-oriented characters meant to form choke points, support that provides buffs, etc. So that sounds really cool. MOBAs are the big thing right now, and I think that there are a couple of other FPS MOBA-style games.
What's MOBA stand for?
MOBA is a multiplayer online battle arena. It's what Dota 2 and League of Legends and things like that are. So what it is it's become a really big thing in esports where MOBAs are like top-down like Warcraft, but you control one unit. And the main thing that they do is that there's a lot of different types of units, so you can get into the whole diversity of the gameplay comes with picking units that can counter, like when they pick teams for Dota 2, like they have a very much like this team picks player 1 and then this team picks player 2, so that they can pick characters that will even out the abilities of the characters that they're fighting against.
Gotcha.
To make it a much more intricate experience than just like Team Fortress of like a spy is a spy is a spy is a spy, right?
Yeah.
But if it's like, oh, you picked a heavy guy, so I'm going to pick a support class that has counters to that heavy guy, but then the other team picks something that is counter to me, so that you make up a team, and then the dynamic of that team is based on the groupings of the different characters that you picked, which is an incredibly profitable business strategy because it means you can sell people new characters, which is what they do in, I believe, League of Legends. Or in Dota, you could sell cosmetic stuff, and that's how they make a lot of their money there. Incredibly smart. That's super awesome. I really can't wait to play this game. They just said that betas opened up for it for the beta that starts in 2015. So
nice. Well, yeah, I can't wait to play this either.
Yep. Next up, it was just an interesting little tidbit. StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void is the third StarCraft 2 game. I don't know if you know that StarCraft 2 has been divided.
They don't know how to count. Third StarCraft 2 game.
Yep.
Gotcha.
They divided StarCraft 2 into a full 6 to 8 hour human campaign and then a full 6 to 8 hour Zerg campaign, and those two are already out. And then Legacy of the Void is the Protoss campaign. But they announced and I don't know if this had been talked about before, that unlike Heart of the Swarm, players will be able to buy Legacy of the Void as a standalone game without having to buy StarCraft 2. So they can buy it all on its own or as a part of
that's good for anyone who already owns the other ones, right? They can just tack this on.
Well, actually, I think it's better for people who don't own the other ones. People who maybe want to get into like I think the reason they're doing it is so that people can get into like the multiplayer scene without having to go back and get all of the different stuff associated with it. So you can still play the Protoss campaign, but you can also do the online multiplayer with that particular segment. Because original StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty came out in July of 2010. So it's over 4 years old at this point.
Jeez.
I mean, Heart of the Swarm came out, what was it, last year. And then
this one's coming out in 2015?
Legacy of the Void. I don't know if they have a release date for it yet, but I'd be willing to bet it's going to be sometime next year. So, yeah, it's interesting the way that they've kind of broken it. Because I think that when you, if I remember correctly, when you go back and you play StarCraft 2 and you boot it up, it says, like, do you want to go into Wings of Liberty or do you want to go into Heart of the Swarm? And then you hit that and it's styled and it's all that specific game. So it makes a certain amount of sense. And like I said, there were a couple other things that happened at BlizzCon. There was a couple StarCraft 2 tournaments. There was some videos they put online outlining new units and changes to StarCraft 2 because that's a huge thing. And then there's all the Warcraft stuff that's happening. Well, by the time this podcast is out, it'll already be live. So, and the one last thing is we have some casting news for the Warcraft movie. Have you and I ever talked about the Warcraft movie? It's being directed by
District 9 guy?
Bowie's kid.
Really?
Moon guy.
The guy who did
Yeah. What the fuck is his name? Now that you said Neil Blomkamp, I can't think of anything but that, because I just watched the trailer for Chappie yesterday, which Duncan Jones. Which, having watched the trailer for Chappie, Grant, seemed an awful lot like Short Circuit, if you ask me.
Yeah, right?
Except that the robot doesn't have, it's fucking Sharto Copley's voice instead of irritating high-pitched Johnny Five.
I don't know about this Sharto guy.
I don't like him. He's like in everything.
Once I saw him in that Powers trailer, I'm like, I'm done with you.
He's the new Benedict Cumberbatch, right? Is that we're all instantly
poor man's Benedict Cumberbatch.
We're all instantly sick of him at this point.
Yeah.
So I'm going to run down the list here.
All right, who we got?
Travis Fimmel as Lothar, Anduin Lothar.
I don't know who that is.
Okay, let's look him up. Actually, we shouldn't do that. We'll be doing this the entire time.
Yeah, no worries.
Dominic Cooper.
I do recognize.
As King Lane Rin. Ben Foster as Medv. Ben Schnetzer.
Good luck with all these
as Khadgar. Ruth Nega as Lady Taria. Do you know who that is? That name is familiar to me. Ruth Nega.
Ruth Nega?
Yeah.
No.
Don't. Got to be very careful.
Nega.
She's in. God, what? She's been in something that I've seen before.
She does look familiar.
World War Z. Yeah, she was in World War Z. And I don't think I've seen any of the rest of that.
Oh, she was in that Warcraft movie that's coming out.
Oh yeah, that's crazy. That's where I recognize her from.
Oh, she's in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
Okay. There's Travis Fimmel. I don't know.
I don't know. I guess
he's Son of Anarchy.
He looks
or
like
something.
one of those guys who's probably in like that Vikings TV show or some shit.
Paula Patton as Garona. I thought that said Paula Poundstone for a second. Paula Poundstone.
Blast from the past.
Toby Kebbell as Durotan.
Oh, okay.
Rob Kaczynski as Ogrim. Clancy Brown as Black Hand. And Daniel Wu as Gul'dan.
Clancy Brown.
So, I don't know. I'm still not entirely sure about whether or not this thing is going to... I mean, I think it's going to be good. They're certainly throwing a decent enough amount of talent, time, money, and a good director at it.
I mean, they have the posters out now. I saw a pretty cool street advertisement where they had a giant battle axe in New York City, thrust into the cab.
Yeah.
Yeah, and had it all blocked off. It's like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't know. I hope it's good. I really do, because it's about time that I feel like at this point it's time for video games to get their good comic book movie, right?
I think it's encouraging to see that they chose someone like Duncan, whatever the fuck his name is,
Duncan
from
Jones.
Moon. Duncan Jones?
Is that what somebody said?
No, not Duncan Jones.
No. Duncan Jones, yeah.
Okay, Duncan Jones. No, not.
It's very late, folks.
But, I mean, I think that shows a lot of promise for them actually taking this seriously beyond, it's just a video game movie, just bullshit. They're really investing in this, and I think they recognize that there's a huge market if they're successful, and they could do sequels, and they can make this a franchise.
I really hope that they've learned from the fucking Marvel universe, right? That like once you stopped making listen, before I finish this sentence, all right? I don't have anything against Blade, but there's a certain group of people who are not going to go see Blade in the movie theater. There are a lot of us. I totally go see Blade in the movie theater.
Blade was great, but I know what you're meaning.
Fantastic Four, Elektra, or something like
Blade
that.
Blade was
right?
of an earlier generation before they got their shit together and started. And it's all Iron Man. It all kicked off.
It doesn't have to be Spider-Man in order to make money, like Guardians will show them, right? It doesn't have to be Spider-Man, Superman, Batman in order to make money. Is that you can go with other things.
You need a great story, great direction.
Yep.
And like commitment to the idea. You can't like half-ass and half sell it.
Yeah. You can't let Uwe Boll make the movie. It's not going to be any good. It's not going to. Do you know how many video game movies Uwe Boll has fucked?
A lot.
Have you ever seen any of them?
I saw like a couple of I saw Resident Evil.
No. That's
not him?
No.
It's bad.
No, that's
got his bad signature on it.
No, that's the guy who's married to Mila Jovovich, right?
Oh man.
Let's see.
Is his name Garbage Jovovich?
No, wait. It might not be him. That dude. Okay, I did not hate the first Resident Evil. Well,
it wasn't great.
No, it definitely wasn't. It wasn't great. It was Paul W.S. Anderson.
Okay.
Yeah. But
the other Paul Anderson.
But if you've seen an Uwe Boll movie, you'll know. Like Dungeon Siege in the Name of the King with Burt Reynolds, or Blood Rain with Christina Loken.
Blood Rain.
Or what was Alone in the Dark with Christian Slater. Okay? Like the guy was getting subsidies from the German Film Board, so that it didn't matter if the movie made any money or not. They were still able to get it made. That dude ran through so many franchises, it just pisses me off.
Yeah, that guy sucks.
He's the worst. All right, next up. Speaking of not the worst.
Okay.
I don't know. This could be.
What a good segue.
I know. I'm the king. I'm the master of segues.
It's late, folks. We want to once again remind you.
So apparently the head writer for Halo 4 has been brought on to help out with the new Mass Effect game.
Ooh.
And strangely, although...
Is that good? Was Halo 4, story-wise good?
Halo 4's story, I felt, was good in places, but it was very rote. Well, Halo 4 had this thing, right, where I went and looked up all of the actual extended fiction for the Halo universe, and it was fantastic. But they didn't put any of it on screen because it was like they wrote this huge story, right?
Yeah.
And then they said, and we're going to set the game in like this one tiny little corner of it, and we're never going to explain any of the rest of this shit.
Halo 4, that was Destiny, right?
You troll.
Trolling.
Grant troll face. But what's interesting about this is that some of the Halo 4 stuff, at least in the extended fiction, I don't know if this guy, Chris Schlurf, was part of that, but I think that Halo 4 was at least decent, and he's joining up with, what does it say here? Mac Walters, who was on previous Mass Effects, but then the person that a lot of people tend to attribute the bad ending to Mass Effect 2 is Casey Hudson, who was one of the writers, and he left. So I think that next week we're going to get to see with Dragon Age Inquisition what if BioWare, because BioWare's kind of been on a bit of a shaky ground recently. Like it used to be a company where you could just be you'd be assured that if you went and bought one of their games, it was going to be absolutely amazing. And Mass Effect 3 over time, I've gotten a little bit less pissed off about, but it's still kind of a letdown in a couple of different ways. But I'm really want to see if Dragon Age Inquisition can get us back on the track to where BioWare is a company that we really like. So I think this is good news, personally.
Huh.
You
cool.
never.
I mean, when I hear something like that, like, oh, you got the person that did the 4th sequel to something, I'm like, that's not that impressive. I mean, it just seems like they start. It's a franchise, so it's already gonna make money.
Right.
So they don't really care about the story as much by the 4th Halo.
Well, the problem with Mass Effect is that, and what they found out with Dragon Age 2 is that a lot of those games, they live or die on the story, like because they're RPGs.
Yeah.
Is if the story is garbage, then everybody kind of just goes, you know.
Why don't they get some of these like cinematic writers, movie?
It's funny. We talked before, sometimes at length on the show, about how I feel like that's not a bad notion, but that
you have to know the format.
I wouldn't want to get just like somebody who's been writing screenplays to write me a video game, because
you want someone who also knows video games.
It's just a different form of storytelling. It's not just throwing information in your face. Like in a lot of ways, your story and the game need to mesh well together. The gameplay and the story need to mesh well together to make a truly great game.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly a 1-to-1, but that's better than, I don't know, just nobody.
I mean, not to shit on this. I don't even know the story of Halo 4, so
yeah.
Cool.
Well, here's another crazy thing about a game that's in development.
Okay.
So last week we reported that they're remaking Majora's Mask for the 3DS. Right?
Yeah.
And there was a quote from, what is his name? I'm going to butcher this. E.G. Enuma, who's working on this, who says that they're not just remaking Majora's Mask 1-to-1. That they're trying to make improvements to certain things while keeping the game as intact as humanly possible. And I thought it actually was this story was really interesting, because it makes me wonder this kind of age-old question we've had of where we're starting to see a lot of remakes or up-reses of games from the previous generation to the current generation. And the question being, do you think that people just want a direct 1-to-1 translation of the game to the newer generation? Because if you already played it, it seems like that's not going to appeal as much to you if they went in and maybe smoothed out a few rough edges. Like I think in the Ocarina of Time,
adjusted some of the storyline.
Yeah,
I mean, it seems like it's such a prime opportunity for a lessons learned and shifting things around and making a little bit more broader adjustments.
Yeah,
and the cost can't be as much, but you still have the investment that you're probably gonna have a certain fan base that's gonna get it.
Yeah, I guess
might get more.
Some of that is just balanced though on I've never seen people as mad as if you go back and try to fuck with shit they liked when they were in their childhood, right? Like,
yeah,
it'd be like,
again,
if you're going to remake...
they changed World 2 of Mario 3 when they redo it.
Right.
I'll flip my shit.
Right. So that's one of those... Like, I actually read a really, really fascinating article several years ago. Did you ever play Final Fantasy VII, the big one? The Cloud Spike?
A little bit.
And stuff. So... This is a spoiler for Final Fantasy VII, a 10-year-old game, folks. But in Final Fantasy VII, Aerith dies. The lady, right?
Dude, I was about to play it.
Yeah, I know. Well, tough nugs. I just said spoiler. You should have covered your ears. But somebody actually wrote because they've been talking about doing a remake of that game for years. It's just been this constant thing where people are like, when are you guys going to remake 7? About remaking 7, but then overhauling the plot to a place where that character does not die in order for it to actually be dramatic all over again for somebody who is so familiar with the original playing the new one, where they're just like, yeah. Well, what? Like how did, and whether
alternate ending,
whether that could be something that people would accept. I don't know. People seem to me very set in their ways, so I don't know if anybody would accept something like that. I feel like you have to be really, really careful and not change that much, because if you do, you're just going to piss off people who are just going to compare it to the other version.
I guess I would assume that they should just release it as a Majora's Mask reboot or something, like, not say it's the exact same game, say
right.
like 2 or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Here we made some changes to it.
I'm really interested to actually know what our listeners think. That's one of those ones that I really am curious to know what people think.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, Grant, our next story is something awesome. You want to hear something groovy?
I do.
Okay. Do you know about The Witcher? Yes?
I do a bit. We played some of it.
Played one episode of The Witcher 2 on Patreon.
We did one episode and went, this isn't good for Patreon.
We're the worst. Well, The Witcher 3 is coming out in February.
Yeah.
And CD Projekt Red announced that when you buy the game, not the special edition of the game, not a season pass of the game, when you buy the game, you're going to get 16 free DLC packs for the game.
Okay. Of your choice?
No, they're individual, but they're for everybody, and they're as the game launches. For 16 weeks after the game launches, every week you'll get a new patch that has new content that is just free that you can put into the game. Now, some of these are like a beard and hairstyle set.
That's probably the most important one to get.
Well, I don't know. The beard and hairstyle set for Witcher 2 was pretty important to me, but I can't speak for everybody else.
You wanted him to look like you.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. I can't get into a game. Doesn't matter.
Even Bayonetta, you're like, she needs a beard.
She needs a beard. She needs a beard and a pair of blue jeans. I don't understand what's going on with this lady.
Even hair blue jeans.
Yeah. Ew. So, CD Projekt Red, this isn't really a kickoff point for discussion. It's just a place for me to say that CD Projekt Red is one of my favorite game development studios.
And they're doing cool things
of all time. CD Projekt Red, when The Witcher 2 came out, was like, hey, bro, do you work for a website, any website that does publicity coverage? You want a copy of Witcher 2 when it comes out on the Xbox 360? Fill out this form on our website, and we'll email you in like 10 minutes and go, yeah, you seem legit, and then they just send you one.
Did we do that?
Well, that was when I worked for Spill. But yes, I did. And then when we went to E3 last year, or not the year before, whatever, 2013, we went to E3. CD Projekt Red had another website set up as like, hey, are you're a journalist? You're going to be at E3? Put in your name and your email address, and we'll send you this little app, and you make an appointment, and we'll make you an appointment to see The Witcher 3. And so I went to my appointment, which didn't require wrangling any PR reps. It was basically just a form you filled out, right?
Yeah.
And you walked in there, and they're from, I believe they're a Polish company, but I'm going to look that up just to make sure.
That's why they're so nice.
And they came in, and they were like, hey, you want a beer? We brought all these Polish beers with us, and I was like, well, it's 10 a.m., man. And they were like, oh, well, we've got Danishes and coffee and stuff over here.
It's 10 a.m., man. So, yes.
Yeah, Warsaw, Poland. So
you said no to the beer?
I did. I was going to be on my feet all day, and I'm not good with that. I'm not a good casual one beer drinker, Grant. I'm a good 12 beer drinker.
Okay. Fair enough.
And then they took us into this room and they started showing us Witcher 3. Unfortunately, the air conditioning in the room was fucked up, so it was so hot. But then they gave us a gift bag that had a 500-piece puzzle and a T-shirt and all this stuff. Yeah.
They give you hand jobs at the same time?
And they brought in these Polish broads, and it was just like, whoa! And it was actually weird because I left my puzzle because I was going to be. It was the first appointment of the day, and I was going to be walking around E3 all day. If I'd known what that appointment was going to be like, I would have put it to the end of the day and like shotgun 4 Polish beers and taking like 3 of those puzzles and giving them away on the website.
Yeah,
but I was like, I'm going to be
kidding.
walking around to appointments all day. I can't be carrying a fucking Witcher puzzle around with me.
Sure.
But yeah, I think that's awesome, and I think that CD Projekt Red is a fantastic company. All right, we got to speed this up a little bit. A little over time here. Skipping that one.
That was a garbage story.
Microsoft has put a bunch of games on sale for Black Friday. PSA. There you go.
What?
Yeah.
Weird.
The first of these 6 Game of Thrones Telltale game episodes is getting ready to start.
Is this the same people that do like that Walking Dead and the Fables thing?
Yes.
Okay. Choose your own adventure.
Yes. The first one, I believe, if I read the should be out by the end of the year, I believe.
Really?
And the thing that I thought
we
was
should play some of this.
No, come on, Grant. That's not what we do on this show. Play video games.
It sounds like a fun thing to do.
I think that they said that the newest one was going to be out before the end of the year.
Can you read a little bit about the premise there?
Yeah, Q4 2014. Well, it's okay. Yeah, I could give you a brief rundown. So skip ahead by a minute if you're into if you don't want spoilers. I skimmed over it, but basically you're going to be playing an original house or a house that we haven't seen in the show, House Forrester, and there's going to be 5 different characters that you play over the course of the game. So it's going to apparently be a lot like the TV show where you have not just one important character, but you've got 5 different characters that are out doing different things.
All right.
Apparently they're going to interact with. I think that it's more based on the actual on the TV show. But you're going to be out there interacting with other people from the Game of Thrones thing, and I don't really even want to know more because Game of Thrones is so rad. And some people have problems with Telltale. Like I know some people were unhappy with.
Well, I have problems with those people, Jeff.
Wolf Among Us. I think you're going to fight him.
I'm gonna maybe.
You want to fight about it?
I'm anonymous on this radio, and I'm still afraid. I'm like, oh
That's right.
man, they might find
Like,
me.
nobody knows where I live, but I don't want to.
I'm not that anonymous.
I don't want to. But yeah, the first one should be out before the year is out. I haven't really seen anything. Like I kind of want to know how it looks. That's what I really want to know.
Well, if it looks anything like the other ones, those other ones look pretty good. And in fact, it probably looks a little bit better.
It looked pretty good. I think that I'd like it if they changed up the art style just a little bit. From
you don't like the kind of black lines around
the
everything.
cell shaded. Yeah,
look.
not as much. But I also think that while it worked fine in The Walking Dead, I think that differentiating, like I think that if Telltale ends up with a Telltale look, so to speak, I think that I liked it better when they were really kind of moving and shaking in a bunch of different directions. I don't want everything that comes out of it to look exactly the same.
Yeah.
All right. 2 more quick stories. One, this is a really interesting thing that came up a few days ago. So do you know what the amiibos are, Grant?
No.
All right. So you remember when we played Disney Infinity or Skylanders?
Oh,
right?
those little characters that you can drop on stuff?
Right. So Nintendo has this amiibos, but you can drop them on the Wii U gamepad, which has a near-field communication sensor in it, and it will take them and put them into Nintendo games. And specifically, I think they're going to do a thing with Smash Brothers, where it's like you can put your Mario there and then level them up and then take them to a friend's house and put them there.
Ah.
But there's a report that came out that said that Nintendo is actually considering letting third parties use their amiibos for their games. So what you got there is a really interesting proposition of being able to drop Mario into a non-Nintendo game. I mean, I'm sure being Nintendo, they're not going to let you put Mario into like Far Cry 4 or,
Are you sure?
Dragon Age Inquisition. I don't know. But I think that if anything could make me actually excited about the idea of this, it's having a much wider range. Because right now the problem with Infinity and Skylanders, right, is they only work with Infinity and Skylanders. These are going to work with Smash Brothers, and I think I read something that said they were going to work in some ways with Mario Kart, or already do, or are already out. I don't know.
I want to see Donkey Kong in bikini volleyball.
in Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball.
That's all I want to see.
And then you put Donkey Kong in.
And
I don't even
Diddy
think
Kong.
I don't even think there's a new Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball in development. But
well, now there is.
well, obviously. Okay,
Once they can use these amiibos.
exclusive here to Rage Select. We're breaking the news.
Yeah.
There's a new Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball. Get
We're
on
making it, actually.
Are we?
Yeah.
I think we might run into 1 or 2 copyright problems.
I'm going to be the model.
Are you for all of the women?
For all the ladies.
For all the women.
It's taking a bad turn.
But yeah, I think that's Hyrule Warriors, Mario Kart 8, Kirby and the Rainbow Curse, Smash Brothers, and maybe Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, Mario Party 10, maybe. Anyway, I think it'd be really cool if somebody like Nintendo was able to take the concept of having these figures that have information in them and being able to migrate them between games would make them that much more interactive and interesting, right?
I think that also shows a lot of foresight for them to recognize that all these games should start collaborating a lot more, having crossover like that. I think that's actually really interesting.
Yeah. I'm just interested to see how it all shakes out. And finally, I keep coming back to this story over and over again, Grant.
Oh, okay.
So, they dug up them ET cartridges?
Yeah.
Apparently, a few folks shoved some in their jacket, left, and are selling them on eBay now.
Oh, that's kind of shitty.
You can actually buy, well, I don't think it's that shitty, to be honest, if they were, like, I think the idea that people took these things surreptitiously is like, it was in a fucking landfill.
Sure,
right?
okay.
Like, you should be able to just go to a landfill and pick up the trash in a landfill and take it with you, right?
Yeah, but I don't know. It seems like it's capitalizing on someone else's labor thing.
Maybe.
In a way, too.
It says that some of them, let's see, it said they've been starting at around $50, but there have been some that have been in better condition that have gone for more than that. I still, though, am of the impression that I don't understand why people would want the landfill game. It's
a gimmick. It's something to mount on your wall in your video game studio. You kind of want one, don't you?
Do you see anything mounted on the wall of my video game studio, house, kitchen, bathroom, or anything in this entire place?
You have some sad walls. There's a house not lived in. What is going on here?
I'm ready to get out of this place. I've been living here for 3 years.
No kidding. You're like a fucking squatter.
You remember it was like, what, a year and a half after I moved in where I had the moving boxes still in my kitchen that I still had shit in? Well, they're in the closet behind the green screen now. They're still there. I haven't unpacked them yet.
Oh, jeez. Move into your own house, Jeff.
Yeah, fuck it. You can't make me.
Okay. I'm sorry.
And with that, I think that's all the news that we have for right now. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a break. But when we come back, we've got some questions. We've got some questions about life, about video games, about all those things.
We also have answers.
We have answers. We have the answers to your questions, folks. We will be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to the Rage Select podcast. It's that most wonderful time of the Rage Select podcast where we answer the questions that people send in to us.
The emails.
Mail at rageselect.com is the email address. Still, people will send their emails to the admin account. I don't know why.
Someone sent one to my TV Dudes account the other day.
Somebody sent a question to TV Dudes?
Yeah, it was obviously for Jeff and Jason.
Well, did you forward it over?
No, I did not.
Well, we have a fair amount of emails. We're recording this a little bit earlier, so I didn't give the emails as much time to come in. But any ones that we don't get this week, we'll get thrown in the running for next week. But our first one comes in from our listener, Jujitsu, who says, "Hello, Ragecasters. When it comes to movies, sometimes it's fair to rate it as so bad it's good. Examples are Troll 2, The Room, and Manos Hands of Fate." Oh, God, I love Manos Hands of Fate. This sadly does not correlate to video games where all there is so bad it's really fucking bad. Do you think that with VR and the possibility of greater interactivity, we can get to the iconic stage or ironic stage where enjoying certain games won't be based on the quality but the lack thereof? Jujitsu. So there's two things that I've got here, Grant.
Oh, yeah?
The first one is I don't really know how VR is going to make something that's really shitty any different. I don't really quite understand that particular point of his question.
Yeah, that part I was a little confused by, too.
But that's just the fact that I've got one of these things and I've used it, right, is that
sure,
it's more of a peripheral, it's more immersive almost, so it would almost mean that the poor quality would be even worse than it currently is. But to his question, I think that there's plenty of games that are so bad that they're good.
I certainly thought of one right off the bat.
Oh, yeah?
You and I played through.
Which is?
Asura's Wrath.
Oh, did you think Asura's Wrath was so bad it's good?
So bad it's good. It's so ridiculous. We're laughing at it half the time.
Yeah.
More than, like, with it.
I mean, like, I've told this story before, but even Aliens Colonial Marines, universally considered, people like, it broke my faith in humanity. It was the worst. I tell you what it is that playing a shitty game all by yourself in your house is not really very fun.
Oh, yeah.
But if you and, like, two of your friends are sitting on the couch playing a shitty game, it's
hilarious.
Beautiful, right? You just do your own dojo. Like, that's it. Find a bad game. Find a JRPG. One of you gets to be Grant, and one of you gets to be Jeff. And then
I'm sorry, it has to be me.
I don't know. Have you ever played a game that you think falls into the category of so bad it's good?
Well, aside from Azura.
See, but I guess the interesting thing about Azura, right, is that for the most part, you weren't playing Azura. You were watching me, because there were a few parts in Azura where I was getting ready to throw my controller out of frustration for just it being really challenging.
I feel we played a couple on our Asylum, actually. Phantasmagoria seems to come to mind as like, what the hell? But I think that's so bad because of it being so
it's old, right?
It lost whatever charm it might have had at the time.
I mean, I know that when Phantasmagoria came out, it was like, oh my God, have you seen how good the video and the production values in this are?
It's so bad and it's so silly and the acting is atrocious.
Oh, yeah. I think any old Sega CD game probably falls. The Night Trap and Sewer Shark both fall into that category.
Yeah. What about you? Anything else?
Yeah, there's plenty of stuff I feel like falls into that category. It mostly just comes down to I have to fight the urge to try to finish those games, to try to beat the game.
Oh, yeah.
Because if I try to force myself to keep playing the game,
it loses it.
It becomes not fun anymore. It just becomes a chore.
Just work. Yeah.
Like I thought that Akiba's Trip.
Oh, Jesus.
Kind of fall in that category. I mean, like,
that game was a trip.
I at no point when we were playing that, I was just like, what am I watching? Like,
it's so absurd. But, I mean, maybe this is sort of similar to that Azura's issue. Are they in on the joke? At some point I'm like, they kind of know it's a joke.
Well, I feel like
right?
A lot of the stuff that we've listed off has been outside of Aliens Colonial Marines has been Japanese developers. So I guess it could just be that most terrible of like, haha, look at another culture. That's so weird, right? Like,
I guess, yeah,
could be. I mean, Akiba's Trip wasn't
sharking the game. It was fucked up.
It wasn't. I mean, as an actual video game, like just from a video game perspective, it had merits as a brawler. It just had that weird hook to make it its own thing. Like, there's a whole series of Japanese dating simulators that are like that.
Yeah.
Right? There's Hatoful Boyfriend, where you're at a pigeon school, so the pigeons are the ones that you date. There's one that I've been waiting for a long time, Grant. Someday we're going to bust this out. That basically has your character flirting with and dating this looks like a mantis lady dressed up in a Japanese schoolgirl outfit. Looks like one of those District 9 aliens.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can do that. What was that Gigolo-Vision game again?
Oh, Killer 7?
Killer 7.
Well, a lot of people feel like
that was bad.
Deadly Premonition falls into that category, right?
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah, so I think there's totally games that do that. I just think that you have to have somebody there to laugh with you.
Sure. That makes sense.
So that's
I imagine just playing that Deadly Premonition just by myself and being like, yeah, I'm done.
It's weird, man. I know there's people out there who are into Deadly Premonition who
they're on our
I know they're the ones who wanted us to continue playing it, but
yeah.
Not me, man. Not me.
Couldn't do it.
All right, this next one comes in from Kiros, who says, "Dear educational instructor of digital entertainment, induced emotional outburst.
Oh boy, what
Professor
is this acronym?
Jeff and Courtesan." Okay. Okay, hold on. I gotta.
Figure this out.
I gotta. Wait. I was getting ready to bring up a calculator. That's not gonna work.
DEI.
DEI. I'm gonna say DEIEOPJ. No, nothing. It doesn't spell anything.
It's nothing. It's just a really weird title.
Yeah, it's just he's capitalized a whole bunch of different things. So, all right. It seems that there are many developers that excel when it comes to certain things, but not in others. An example would be Far Cry 3. The open world was great, and many of the characters were equally great, namely the character of Voss, by far one of the best villains. But the gameplay itself was lacking, with many parts becoming too repetitive. Wouldn't it be better if they were able to get some other developer to do the gameplay side of things? A Blizzard Games with Bethesda's open world style of play, a Call of Duty game with the memorable characters of Far Cry 3 and world to play through, dynamic factions and battle lines that shift as you accomplish goals, throw in a radiant AI, allowing NPCs to do their own thing, giving the feeling of a living world while still keeping the big action and frantic combat. Humbly, Kyros. And then he has a
postscript.
I don't know if we should read the postscript, Grant.
Okay.
All right.
I don't. Now it's so dramatic. I feel you have to.
Would you rather shit streams of warm, gooey jizz or jizz out heavy bursts of thick ecto-cooler?
Dude, you had such a nice email.
I know.
And then you tack on that shit.
I think you do this.
What is that about?
Yeah.
So I'm shitting one, or what's the ecto cooler one?
Jizzing ecto-cooler.
Oh, jizzing, dude. Ecto cooler?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is that's
right into my mouth. It's delicious.
I'm going to make a Match.com profile tomorrow and just be like, yo, baby.
Having people lining up for the nostalgia.
Right. Actually, have you seen, I was watching on YouTube this channel that was nothing but like two people reading horrible text messaging back and forth to each other. It was one of the most hilarious things I've ever seen. I'll find it and post it or something. I'm sure somebody will be able to find it.
Here.
One of them had Sasha Grey in it, and basically it was like they got a hold of Tinder back and forths, right?
Yeah.
And then they would sit there and read it to each other.
Dramatic reading.
Incredibly hilarious. Incredibly hilarious. Anyway, so yeah, some developers are good at some things and bad at other things.
No, dude, they're not going to merge. That's business.
Well, I mean, I figure this is kind of a what if thing, right? Is it what if you could? I mean, I guess the same thing might apply to like
what if Spider-Man was in the Avengers franchise?
Essentially,
yeah.
Or like, what if
maybe
Constantine was run by Vince Gillian or whatever? You know, like.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting. I mean, I think that it would be great, of course, if like you picked the 5 best game companies out there, and each one of them brought one piece of the pie, and then what you were left with was a delicious suicide drink from the fountain at 7-Eleven when you put all the things in.
I imagine there's still just going to be competition and a disjointedness unless you have one person running point who can still oversee everything and make all the best calls.
Yeah.
I mean, you still just need fearless leader. You can't be, I'm going to bring this and you bring that, and harmony.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times to the things that he's talking about probably just come from studios who their main focus is in one thing or another thing.
Yeah.
So when you talk about Far Cry 3 and the shooting that they're the way a lot of times I feel like the focus of the world that they put together, at least right now, if you have an open world game like Far Cry 3 that has shooting in it, there's necessarily not going to like the shooting in Call of Duty works because it's baked into the way that game is developed, right? Because it's one of their primary focuses. Whereas if you have if you were able to just take that gameplay and paste it into another game, it may not work because of the environment that it's in. So
yeah, it's all pieces of the same puzzle.
Well, yeah. Well, what I'm saying, I guess, is that I feel like I don't know if it would work. Like, I think that if you tried to copy paste something from another game, I don't know if it would mesh well with what was initially there from that programmer.
Well, I think there's plenty of games that like outsource to different development studios for different segments anyway, right?
Sure.
So the idea is of just kind of doing this on a little bit bigger scale.
Yeah.
And sure, I would bet that even sometimes it kind of happens. You know, that like, hey, could you help us with this part of this engine?
Well, when we were playing, you remember when we were playing Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, and when the credits came up, it was Sledgehammer Games, but then they also said Raven and High Moon Studios.
Exactly, yeah.
Which, totally other smaller studios that they were able to get to do different little pieces of the game. I don't know. It'd be interesting. I feel like you probably have some pretty solid conflicts of personality with people who wanted to do shit one way. That may be a reality show.
Negotiating money.
Dude, that is the real world that I want to see, where it's like Ken Levine and Suda51 and Hideo Kojima and like, I don't know, Casey Hudson or something like that. Like, get like 5 really headstrong game developers and then put them in a house together with all the reality show cameras around and be like, all right, now make the best game ever. You're the best. Make the best game. And then they can't leave until they make the best game, except for the daily challenges where they get to decide, who has to do the chores that week.
Yeah. That could be fascinating, or it could just be tragic.
They're just going to come out with some mess. It's just a mess is what it is. All right, our next one comes in from D Block Guard, who says, Dear Jeff and Grant, I recently played the original Deus Ex and became really frustrated, mainly because the game would play like a PowerPoint presentation. It's really hard to be immersed in such a good game when it doesn't perform very well. My question is, has there been a game that people have told you was really good, but when you went to play it, things turned you off from it? For example, the graphics, performance, or controls. Are there any games you think would benefit greatly from a redo or other visitation that fixed many of the problems with the game? Thanks, D Block Guard.
It's funny every time I see one of those kind of questions.
Yeah.
Because when you guys are asking these questions of Jeff, you don't have to say, has there ever been? You just say, name some of the games that have done this.
Right.
Because, Jeff, you've played like all these games. You played 1 billion games.
I play a lot of games, man.
Of course there's some that you could categorize into just about everything.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you got for that?
I can think of a couple examples. One was, to this day, I've never played all the way through, even though I'm a big fan of the franchise, Splinter Cell Conviction. No, not Conviction. God, which one was it? It's the one where he's in prison. Double Agent. Splinter Cell Double Agent. And it was because the developer, they did a really horrible job of porting it over to the PC, and that was where I had a chance to play it. So I was really excited because I'm a big fan of the Splinter Cell franchise.
Yeah.
And I loaded it up, and it just ran like garbage, like like almost unplayable garbage. And then I went online to look at their website. They're like, yeah, we use these new shaders, so you need like the newest video card that's out in order to play this game.
Sure.
And then I've gone back since then to try to play it, but I think there's this latent anger in me that just won't let go of it, where I'll load it up and it runs like a dream, and I'm just like, yeah, but fuck you. Yeah, but fuck you. Really.
You burned that bridge.
That's right.
You did to me.
I think there have been plenty of examples of games that fall into that category. I feel one that really did, and it's not a real popular opinion, Grant, is Walking Dead. The first season of Walking Dead. When we went to review this, and I played, because I waited until it was all over to play through it from start to finish.
Yeah.
And ostensibly, Walking Dead is like the real focus of Walking Dead are supposed to be these horrific moral conundrums that you have to deal with, right? But I'm an asshole, so I'm like, there was the one mission where they're like, we've got 8 people here, but we only have food for 4 of them. You have to go choose who gets the food.
You're like, boom, dude, dead.
Well, and I was like, well, the 2 kids get the food, and the person who's on watch who needs to stay alert gets the food. And this guy says he's about to pass out, so I'm going to give him the food. And they're like, I haven't eaten since yesterday. And I'm like, well, eat a dick. Like, the kids get the food. Like,
kids eat less anyway, so that's more food for other people.
Maybe I spend way too much time thinking about the zombie apocalypse, but whenever they had the hard choice, it was just like, well, no, fuck you. I know what my choice is. Like, I've thought about all these questions. It was weird because when it was going on, people would just be like, oh my God, the thing that happens at the end of this chapter. And I'm not saying it wasn't in any way, shape, or form.
Not everyone does a podcast once a week where they have to answer these what ifs.
Sure. My other podcast, the Zombie Preparedness Apocalypse Podcast, which is the acronym for that is nothing.
Once again.
But the other part of Walking Dead is that the actual gameplay outside of the relationships of Walking Dead is a puzzle game. It's like an old Monkey Island, Grim Fandango. You got to find the crank to open the door so that you can get to the thing or whatever, right? Except that the easiest puzzle game I've ever played in my entire life. Like, there's very little challenge to it.
It's not really thought out. It's just kind of capitalizing on the franchise and giving you a little bit more of here's some questions that you can try and deal with. How would you deal with it in the apocalypse?
And the
zombie apocalypse.
I think the funny thing about the Walking Dead season 1 was that it wasn't even remotely a bad game. Like, I don't want to come off like I'm saying that. It's just, oh my God, nobody would shut up about it when it was going on. And it was, I mean, plenty of places gave it Game of the Year, and they were like, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. This is the greatest thing of all time. And if I'm remembering correctly, hold on, let me just see, when did that come out? Walking Dead Season 1 game. Okay. Walking Dead video game. Season 1. 2012. So 2012, if I'm remembering this correctly, is the same year that... No, it was 2011. Okay, I don't remember what I gave Game of the Year in 2012. Sorry. I got kind of totally off on a tangent there, but I just remember, like, people that were all over The Walking Dead, and in some cases, to me, it was just like, it seemed good, it just seemed overrated.
For me, I think if you go to the YouTube channel, Rage Like YouTube channel, and if you search for the phrase, fuck you, Grant, you'll probably find some video where I insulted something that a bunch of people like.
Yeah.
Yeah. I generally get people saying, fuck you, Grant, if I insult some game that they're really into. So, whoops. So sometimes, those things aren't jiving with me and everyone else is really liking the game.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
It's interesting, Grant, because I feel like of everybody that we have on Rage Select and have ever had, and everybody that I've ever worked with as far as video games go, you are you're harder on a lot of games than a lot of other folks that I know, and I think it's because you basically expect the best kind of right away, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just that
I have high standards.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think of what was my Game of the Year in 2012 now.
This is gonna plague you.
It's really
you're going to have to add a little postscript of your own to the end of this episode.
I thought the 2011...
and it's going to be Ectoplasm Jizz.
That's right. 2000.
That's your favorite game.
I thought it was 2011 when I was thinking about it, but anyway. All right, our next one comes in from Nathan Burns, and Nathan says, "Greetings, followers of the mighty Dong Lord. Long may his sacred shaft grow. With the Oculus Rift and VR soon to be in the mainstream, we've been seeing many exciting ways people have been looking into improving the VR experience, from multi-directional treadmills to frictionless walking dome harnesses. While these all seem like cool ways to increase immersion, all these things seem to have two major problems: price and size. While it would be cool to have, it is completely impractical for the average gaming plebe such as myself to get one of these sweet rigs. So I put it to you, Masters of the Dong, how do you think the VR experience will become more immersive? Will VR arcades become the hip new thing? Will I have to sell my organs to buy one of these cool conceptual rigs? Or will I simply have to wait and hope VR isn't abandoned? Thanks for your time. Keep raging on. And Nathan Burns."
I don't think people are going to want to stand up and walk around while they're playing their video games.
Absolutely right, Grant.
People are just going to be lazy. They want to sit and eat their Doritos and Funyuns and play the game.
I think you're absolutely 100% correct when you say that. As somebody who's played through a fair majority, I can say that I don't think that any one of those experiences would have been greatly increased by standing up and walking around.
I mean, just having the helmet on, that's fine. You moving your neck, looking around.
Yeah.
You already kind of do that on the screen. It's just a little bit exaggerated.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe adding smell-o-vision, some sort of extra, like, odor sensory element.
Just a giant tube that you shove into your nose, and then it just squirts, like, different smells in there.
It'd be kind of interesting.
Don't go to the poop level, Grant. Don't go to the poop level.
We're in the sewer.
I could, it's funny how I've played the Oculus Rift, and I played several hours at a time on it, and I can tell you that the one thing that I think is interesting that might color some people's gameplay experience with it is if you had the Oculus Rift and it was hooked up, if you had the Project Morpheus and it was hooked up to PlayStation 4, you'd be sitting on your couch with it, right? The swivel chair does a lot for the Oculus Rift because you don't have to be standing up, but you can still turn in 360 degrees of motion, right? As opposed to sitting on the couch.
So they're going to sell a $2,000 swivel chair.
You're just going to be sitting in the middle of your living room with no furniture around and just a swivel chair, and then just turning around and looking. No, but I actually found that, and maybe it's because I've been trained to look at a screen when I play a video game, then I tended to face into a neutral forward position and then turn my head as was necessary, but then return back to that neutral position. So it's like if you were going to turn to the left, I didn't just swing my entire chair to the left and then keep it that way for the entire time.
Sure.
Is that I would stay forward and then use the controls to turn my avatar in that direction, using the Oculus Rift mainly to just enhance my peripheral vision as opposed to that. So I think that all this treadmill stuff and some of the Razer Hydra stuff, like they have the Razer Hydra is a PC kind of like Wii controller that they use for a lot of VR things where you can simulate having a hand or having a thing in your hands.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that stuff maybe comes way down the line, but I think that it makes a lot of sense when you look at it in the perspective of if you can get an Oculus Rift for between $250 and $300, right? And if they get that to the point where it's comfortable enough to wear for long periods of time, you can kind of buy that in lieu of a television, right? Because you can, I have a virtual desktop app for my Oculus that basically just, there's space all around me and then a giant window in the middle of it that is my desktop, so I can watch movies as much as big as I want it to be. So if that became the thing, then why would you need a projection TV on your wall? You just put on a pair of goggles and have an IMAX screen, right, to play your game on. It wouldn't matter.
I don't know.
No?
I don't like that.
Why?
I think there's something nice about sitting next to someone else and having a shared experience that you would lose. If you're just doing it by yourself, sure, I guess.
Yeah.
That makes sense, but I don't know, the surround sound audio.
Yeah.
Kind of want that in the room. Having the big projection.
Well, you got surround sound headphones, right?
Yeah, I guess. I don't have that strong an opinion. There's just something about it though that kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah.
I'm thinking too much transition toward that. But
I think we've talked about this before, and I don't think anybody. I really need to stop saying I've talked about this before because I say it way too much. I realize, but
we've talked about this before. You saying that?
That's right. But the Project Morpheus for Sony, they do a thing that I don't think Oculus has yet that I think is actually something that could probably alleviate some of what you're saying, which is you can flip it up. You could just, instead of having to wrestle this thing off your head, you could just pop the visor up and you can look at the person next to you or do whatever you want to. And I think that that's actually would be a really good way to...
It's very vulnerable, too, don't you think? You feel... You have these goggles on, you have the your ears covered up.
Yep.
People can sneak up on you.
Not a lot of people sneak into my house.
They will now.
Now that they know, they saw they're online.
I'm going to sneak up on you at some point.
I will say, I will say this. I do make sure all my doors are locked before I put that thing all the way on.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's kind of one of those things where I've never been in a home invasion scenario, and I keep my lights on 24 hours. Like the time when people rob you when everybody's asleep in your house.
Yeah.
I've got my TV blaring, and there's lights, and you could see me walking around in here. It's like that Home Alone Christmas party, but just all year round, right?
Keep them guessing.
Right.
I would think a fleshlight is going to be in the future for the VR stuff.
They've already done it.
Okay, there you go.
There was some story.
I imagine that one might sell pretty well with a VR helmet.
6 to 8 months ago, where it was like a table that you laid down on, and then you had an Oculus Rift, and then they basically had a fleshlight on a pneumatic up and down thing, and then they had some programming that went into that. And it was at a trade show, so obviously nobody was actually using it, but people were putting on the goggles to see what it was, and yeah, it was a creepy little anime girl going to town on your junk. So,
yep, that makes sense.
Yep.
Wave of the future, ladies and gentlemen.
I told you I saw the porno. I saw the Oculus porno.
I seen it.
Ooh,
I seen it with my eyes.
weird. All right, this next one comes in from Pedro. Pedro says, "Hello, Jeff and Grant.
Hello.
This is Pedro once again from the faraway planet of Chicago, here with a question about our favorite video game franchises. Now, we all have a franchise that we love, but is there a game within the franchise that you hate, or at least you believe completely missed the mark with what the franchise stands for? Personally, I love the Metroid franchise for its imaginative universe and strong female lead, but Metroid Other M is a complete shit bomb. The gameplay is mediocre at best, and the game recycles environments from previous games rather than coming up with something unique. But the worst is how it portrayed Samus Aran from a strong, silent, independent, and badass woman in previous games to a whiny, man-reliant, monotone, and hypersexualized little girl in Other M. Fuck this game and fuck anyone who defends it. Even you, Jeff, if you like it. Simply put, you are not a true Metroid fan if you like this game, as it betrays all the values, both the gameplay and story, that previous Metroid games stood for. Keep up the good work, and all hail Jeff, and well, just Jeff, I guess." That seems a little... What about Grant? All hail Grant.
Well, I love that Metroid game. I think it's the best.
You
So
think
I imagine he's not going to all hail me.
You think Metroid Other M is just the best?
It's such a good game.
It's such a great...
I feel like it perfectly captures Samus.
Right.
I think it's just what Samus represents and at its core.
Is that what it... Okay. Eric, you've heard Grant's thoughts about Metroid Other M.
Yeah.
I'm trying... yeah, I can think of a couple games that fit into that category. Not necessarily full-on betrayal, right?
Well, you already bitched about Splinter Cell, so you can't go back to that one.
Yeah. I really didn't like Call of Duty Ghosts that came out last year. It was really... it was just such a dumb plot that I just... I mean, with Call of Duty, all the games kind of play the same. Like, they've got a kind of a patented way the game plays. So a lot of the differences between the games, in my mind, come down to the story and how good the story grabs you. And boy, it was fucking stupid. It was really stupid. And I've never, ever, like, people get on me about how stupid I think it is, and I don't care. Because the South American Federation invades us with bombs, and then they brainwash this guy with South American voodoo drugs, and it's just like, what? Fuck you. This is a military shooter. We talk about your voodoo bullshit. Get that out of here. Get that out of here, assholes. South America? What?
I didn't like Mario Galaxy 2. I thought it was just a complete rehash of the first one.
Yeah.
Without anything that interesting to add to the mix. I was
Super Mario Sunshine didn't really grab me with the water cannon stuff, right?
Oh yeah,
it was, and the way that it was the weird world with the Hawaiian candy guys or whatever, gumdrop guys. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah, that always seemed like I there was a time where I kind of got off. No, okay.
Oh, whoa! Finish that sentence.
There was a time where I moved away from Mario, shall we say? Starting kind of at the N64, because I didn't have an N64, so I never got into the Mario 64. And then when I got a GameCube, I came back to try Sunshine and was just like, what the fuck is going on here? This is weird.
Yeah, Mario 64 was another one that was like, I don't know. Did they make one for GameCube? Was there a Mario game for GameCube?
Super Mario Sunshine.
That was what it was. Okay,
this was for the GameCube, yeah.
Okay.
I feel like you could probably throw a couple of Resident Evil games into that category, like the kind of Resident Evil 6, the latest one. It was and even 5 to a certain degree. Like, I don't hate 5, but it was such a departure. It was such a departure from horror, and it felt a lot more actiony. And
4 was good.
Yeah, I wasn't ready to write the franchise off, but it definitely seemed tonally like way different than the previous game.
Yeah.
Especially with the change in scenery to Africa. And like I said, I think it's a good game on its own right, but I feel like it just takes a big misstep.
What about Assassin's Creed?
Yeah, that's a good one. Assassin's Creed 3, I did not care for.
Yeah.
There were parts of it that were okay, but that was where the Assassin's Creed franchise started to lose me a little bit, and 4 was a good step back in the right direction, but I feel like we're drifting apart. Like, there's this emotional rift between Assassin's Creed and I, and I just don't know if it's ever going to get healed. I don't know. I got 2 Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah.
to play this week. There was another franchise actually that I was just thinking of, but it slipped out of my mind when you said Assassin's Creed because I was like, rah. This is a weird one that a lot of people. Some people like it, some people don't. I didn't really like the way Devil May Cry 4 fit into the Devil May Cry franchise. I didn't like the new character. I didn't like Nero. I just wasn't really a big fan of him. He felt like a Dante rehash, and then the game was also very odd in the way that it was structured. Because it was like you start here, right? And you go all the way from point A to point B. And then at point B, the game switches characters to another character. And then you go backwards through the game back to point A.
Fuck that.
And it was just like, okay. At least that's how I remember it. I mean, I could be wrong. But I remember liking Devil May Cry 1, Devil May Cry 3 quite a bit. I didn't care for 2, and I didn't really like 4 all that much. I think at the time, people were really, really unhappy about it. So I think I kind of pushed back against some of the extreme just moaning and complaining about it, but
sometimes you gotta stick to your guns and fight these people.
Mortal Kombat went off the rails for a while there. Yeah. Between Mortal Kombat 3 and Mortal Kombat from 2009 or whatever, I feel like
3 on.
Yeah. Except for Shaolin Monks. Shaolin Monks is an excellent game. You got any more?
Nah, let's go to the next question.
All right. So it comes in from Carlos. Carlos says, "Hello, Jeff and Grant. My question for you is this. Are there any games that you hated or disliked in the past, but upon replaying months or even years later, you found yourself enjoying? For me, that game is Far Cry 2. For whatever reason, me and that game just did not click when it first came out. I remember disliking a lot of mechanics such as the malaria, weapon degradation, and constantly respawning enemy checkpoints, lack of easily accessible fast travel. But since I've started replaying it recently, I've actually found myself loving the game for most of those reasons. The respawning checkpoints are still shitty. I'm so in love with the game now that I'd even go as far as to say that it's better than Part 3 in a lot of ways. Woo! Still no Blood Dragon, though. Thanks for reading my email, and as always, stay classy and rage on, Carlos."
Far Cry 2, man. It's all the rage in the...
Oh, the other one was Far Cry 3.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Far Cry 2, I didn't like and haven't gone back to ever.
A game you've revisited.
A game you didn't like at first, but then you went back and you ended up liking it a lot.
Azura's Wrath.
Azura's Wrath?
Well, I mean, I started off pretty sour on that game when we were playing it.
Right.
And I warmed up to it.
Right.
And then I grew to love it near the end of our Patreon playthrough. So,
it's funny because I don't go back that often and play games that I didn't like. Is for the most part, there are enough games that I really did like that I don't go back to be like, you know what, I'm going to try giving this and that. I mean, like I tried it with KOTOR 2, Knights of the Old Republic 2. I've tried playing that game I've tried playing every Obsidian game. That one, Alpha Protocol, Neverwinter Nights 2. I've tried playing all those games multiple times and have never been able to get into them, so that's not really
I can relate this to TV.
Yeah.
In that Mad Men, as we talked about in the beginning of this episode, is a perfect example of a show that I watched the entire first season and didn't like it. I just couldn't get into it. Didn't like the show at all.
Yeah.
I waited a couple years. And I went back and rewatched it, and suddenly everything clicked for me.
Yeah.
And like just on the rewatch, I understood what they wanted to achieve with the first season, and it was just such a beautiful arc. I was watching it for better reasons. I was like taking in the cinematography at the same time, and it was just like it was a completely different experience.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't disappointing my expectations. I was accepting of the slow pacing and everything else.
Because you didn't have any expectations in the first place.
Yeah, well, in the first place I did.
Yeah, right.
In the first place I did, and then it disappointed me.
Yeah, I think the original Demon's Souls, when my friend first showed it to me, I was like, what is this? This is garbage. What are you fucking talking about?
Yeah.
And then it was explained to me because I think a lot of times it's just a game that you're able to get into right off the bat, right, as opposed to something that you have to really work to get into. But yeah, for the most part, I don't really go back that often and revisit games. You know what? I think I might agree with you in Asura's Wrath, is that when I first played Asura's Wrath, it was another one of those cases where everybody was just like, oh my God, that game was so fun. And I'm just like, do you even watch anime, bro? Like,
do you even game?
That's right, because people were talking about how epic the things that happened on screen were.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that, right? but I have watched a fair amount of anime, and there's a lot of epic shit that goes down in anime where it's just like people are treating this like they'd never seen anything this epic before. And for me, I mean, let's be honest here. If you're in Asura's Wrath for the story, which I think I kind of was the first time I played it, you're going to have a bad time, right? Like, dude is just screamy, and that's what he does.
It's very epically childish.
Especially when you consider now that we've finished playing through the DLC, right?
Yeah.
You saw where the game ended.
Oh, yeah.
And then you saw what they cut out to sell you later, and, like...
It's a big middle finger.
They did a Capcom shame on fucking you because, yeah, it goes from being like, wow, this is really epic to just like... my brains are coming out of the front of my head like insane.
But it warmed up on you.
Yeah, I think there's a possibility for some games. I think that I still to this day think that I could go back and get back into Deadly Premonition. I think if I was by myself and I had a limited time, I might be able to see what other people have seen in it. There's also a few of the Elder Scrolls games like Morrowind that people really like that I never got into.
I was digging Morrowind. It's just that it couldn't play on my PS2 or whatever I was trying to play it on. It was shitty.
I tried playing it, and I think it was another one of those games where I didn't really understand off the bat what it was doing. I had a bad time with Elder Scrolls up until Skyrim. Like, just didn't enjoy a lot of it. So yeah, I don't know. There's potential there, but outside of Demon Souls, I don't know what else I got. All right, let's see. We got one more question here because it's late, and I'm starving my ass off. Hey, guys. Here's a random-ass question for the podcast. What is the worst song to have stuck in your head, and what is the best way to get a song out of your head? For the past few weeks, I have had the song from Springtime for Hitler from the movie The Producer stuck in my head, and I've been fighting every urge to sing it at the risk of being exiled by my peers. Hope you guys have a great week, and hope Jeff loses the silly notion that cheese is out to kill us. It's not cheese that's out to kill us, Grant.
It's dairy. Big dairy.
Yeah. Chubbalicious/Austin. Yeah, it's not cheese. It's the people to make it. Sorry. No. So keep it.
All right, what's the most annoying song? Let's go ahead and get this stuck in our brains.
Let's see. What's the worst song to have stuck in your head?
I'm a Barbie girl inside a Barbie world.
That one doesn't really bother me all that much. That one doesn't get stuck in my head.
No?
No.
Oh, man, that can get stuck in there.
There's one, two. I say that old song Blue Moon. That's the one that gets stuck in my head. I don't know what it is. Or Lollipop. You know, the one with the...
Lollipop,
yeah, that one. Yep.
Yeah.
And the only way that I know to get a song out of my head is to listen to it until it becomes background noise. So aggressively listening to the song that's stuck in your head. Oh, I remember there was a time when you could not turn on a device that had a speaker without hearing Hey Ya by Outkast.
Oh, God, yeah.
And holy shit, did I want to just murder all the speakers in the world.
It was such a good song the first couple times I heard it.
I was drunk like a couple months ago, and I actually went and watched the video for it, and I was like, I kind of dig this now that I'm not being forced to listen to it all day, every day.
Macarena, that was a bad one.
Kelly Clarkson, since you've been gone for a while there, was...
Shut your fucking mouth. I love Kelly Clarkson. She can do no wrong ever. I'll listen to that to the day I die.
I could say Lady Gaga had a lot of earworms before I was just like, yeah, fuck it, all right, I'll just listen to it.
Yeah, just own it.
Yeah, I'm not going to...
You're just a little monster of hers.
I can't, yeah. Like, I'm not going to go see her in concert, but whatever. I'll listen to some... I know all the words to Bad Romance, you know. And I was free of the Gaga curse for a while, Grant.
Yeah.
Until we played Just Dance and you played Applause, and I listened to it when I was making that clip. And I was like, God damn it, this is a really catchy song.
She's a hit machine.
I know.
She's so hot right now, that Lady Gaga.
Some of them, not so much. Like the Born This Way, that one didn't work in my brain for whatever reason. I don't know.
Yeah.
The one with the Kenny G saxophone was okay.
I don't even know who this one is. Apparently, you really know your Lady Gaga.
I kind of do. I don't want to. But like I said, when I get a song stuck in my head, the only way that I can get rid of it
You gotta
is
play it.
aggressively listening to it over and over and over again.
Jeez, I just listen to anything else and just or fall asleep or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not that hard to get over it, I find.
My brain is a little bit more obsessive, apparently, than yours
No,
is.
I sometimes you get the it's not like a bad song. It's just like a song that gets stuck in your head, and you're like, I need to hunt this down and figure out what it is so I can listen to it and get it out.
Right.
Move past it.
One
I
thing
get that.
One thing that I find, I don't know, this may hurt or it may help, but is learning all of the words to that song that's stuck in your head, so that you're not just hearing the chorus over and over again, so you can actually in your head sing along with like the verse and shit like that.
Yeah.
Some of the Dr. Horrible songs were real catchy, real stuck in your head stuff, but I wasn't
Laundry
pissed
day,
about. Yeah,
something.
yeah, I know all the words to those songs too.
Okay,
so.
well, that's more than I did.
Yeah.
I knew 2 words apparently.
So it sounds like you don't have that much of a problem with it.
No.
No, there've been times with Blue Moon, especially when I was a teenager.
I'm probably gonna have that one stuck in my head for a little bit after this episode.
Yep.
And I'm not gonna listen to that over and over and over again.
Every
There's
time
no
you go to a
fucking
bar
way.
and you're staring at the taps and you see Blue Moon, poof.
You asshole. You asshole. Oh, God damn it.
Also,
I hope that doesn't
listeners,
happen.
poof to you as well. There you go.
No. Quit poofing us.
That's right. All right, and you know what? That's the show. If we were a little bit, I'm sorry if we were a little bit sleepy today. Also, I didn't have a lot of questions that were not specifically video game related to throw at you, Grant.
That's okay.
But I feel like we did good. If you would like to have your question answered, please send it in to mail@rageselect.com. The best day to send your question in is the same day the podcast comes out, Sunday. If I can get all my questions lined up on Sunday, then I don't have to worry about it for the rest of the week. So
That's nice.
send those in, and yeah, I think now we're going to go listen to some Lady Gaga, right? That's what we're going to do?
Blue Moon.
Fuck you, Grant. Fuck you, Grant.
You Peter picks potatoes and peppers by the place. I don't know what the last word is. All right, my mouth is ready.
All right. That's not something you should say. That's something you should say.
My mouth is an open vessel.
Grant, I don't think you should say these things on the show. I don't
you're not
think
going to include that.
That's welcome back, everybody.
Oh, great.
To the